So, hello and welcome to Limitless Talk with me, Katie, and we are back with our guests. And being back is not only brilliant, but the fact that my guest today, who's my first one back, is a fellow coach, is coached by my coaches, so we're in the same coaching group. We officially met after kind of knowing one another, I would say more digitally, in the land of our coaching group. And we spent some time last year on the retreat that we were both on. I'm going to let Ben introduce himself, but Ben Blundell, who is an online fitness coach, he's ex-armed forces, he's a dad. I know him as just like absolutely sends it in his training, and very inspirational for me to work as hard as I can. But Ben, thank you very much for agreeing to do this, because I'm very excited to have this conversation.
Yeah, very good to be here. Excited to see how the talk goes and what we start unraveling.
Yeah.
But introduction to myself, I think you pretty much hit the nail on who I am. Well, I'll say there's no really specifics. I keep changing how that goes. I keep learning about myself as the years go.
So the first question that I wanted to ask, and I've asked everyone that comes on, if you could say who is Ben, who would you describe Ben as?
Yeah, to be fair, when you were saying that, I was hoping I could get away with a question like that.
Nope.
Yeah. Because I don't necessarily pinpoint anything that I want to be who describes as I am. So yes, I'm into fitness, and a lot of people see me in fitness and think that's who Ben is. But I like to think of it, even if I lost my arm. This is what I said to Christian in Malaga when we were running. I said, even if I was to lose my arms and my legs, that fitness aspect might potentially no longer be there, but I'm still Ben. So it's about discovering that side of things. So who am I? I would say I'm someone that always wants to see life as a challenge in a positive way, that no matter what happens, I see it as a good thing, because it's somewhere that I can just enjoy. Like I said, if I lost my arms and my legs now, it's happened, even though that's terrible. It's happened, but how can I make the most out of this situation and still have a good life from it? There's obviously people that are in a situation like that, and they inspire me, because you'd think, how can they stay so positive all the time? And they do. So for me, I would say that sort of pinpoints who I am, is someone who sees life on the whole as a challenge, that no matter what happens, that's just part and parcel of why I think we're alive. There's no point being on the planet without that. I think life becomes a little bit pointless if it was just really easy every single day. You didn't need to do anything.
When you're saying that I mean, I can obviously vouch and say that I've seen firsthand, spent time with you, shared conversations with you, and I want to nod my head constantly.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel then that you're very much a glass is always half full no matter what type person?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's probably been times when you sort of limit yourself to what you can achieve, but I don't feel like that's like a thing now. Even if everything in my life was just to completely unravel, I can't really, because like I said, unraveling would just be part of the process and part of the journey. I could lose this house right from tomorrow and say you got to get out, and again I'm like, right, this is just where we're at today. This is where I'm at tomorrow. You got to figure it out. Yeah, I guess it is glass half full always.
I find that amazing, because I think even a version of myself, and probably quite a lot of people listening to this, would be, how can you be so calm about it? How can you just, like, almost like you've already accepted whatever lies ahead, whether that be what you can or can't control. Does that come from, or a part of that from everything that you've learned, being in the military, being a part of that world?
It's definitely obviously plays a factor. My environment's obviously the biggest influences to a person, I would say. But I think at a core, people have their core values, and it's built in them from a young age. So I've always just thought, within my family's massive, absolutely massive, and I've always just thought, I've got the capacity, because of them really, that I could do whatever I want, and you've always got support. So I think it meant that as long as we've got community, that's what life is about, and you can do whatever you want as long as you've got that. I think the military, again, the same. You've got these people that become like your best mates, but they're like family. Like my closest mates from the RAF are like brothers, and you just always think that's what life's about. Not about the job, not about what you wake up and do every day. It's about the people you have the connections with. You could earn no money and you'd still be all right as long as you've got that. That would come from the military. I think a lot of it came from my divorce a couple of years ago when that happened as well. That was something my expectations of life was you get a career. So I got that with the RAF, get married, which I did, have children, which I have with my daughter. That's all I thought life was. And then that sort of everything sort of stopped when the divorce happened. And then the job went. That was my choice to leave the job. But it was more like a complete fresh start. I think it was just, again, accumulation of everything that happened. I wouldn't say it's just one specific
thing that's sort of happened. I mean, I know your circumstances, so thank you for feeling in this space that you could share, about separation and about divorce, so calmly. Like watching your body language, just like I always said to Ben, and I think I said it onto the retreat numerous times, you're so calming. But it just because, as our friend Ross that was on the retreat as well talks about energy and vibrations, and he's teaching me all about it, and I'm learning more about it, and even having this conversation is very very relaxing. And I can only assume that certain times in the military wasn't calm at times. I mean, I'm only assuming. But what would you say in all of that of being like a glass half full person, all these life experiences that you've learned so far, what would you say that your biggest lessons or your biggest takeaways have been?
I think it's that if you are like that, you do seem to stand out as you're a bit like weird or a bit different. Absolutely. I know throughout my whole time in the RAF, people would think this guy's an absolute nutter. Sometimes it gets seen as like immature because of the way I think. Even when I left, people couldn't fathom why is he leaving. It doesn't make sense. And I think that's what you've just sort of got to take on the chin as well, is that you're going to be different to the majority of people when you start living in a way that isn't the narrative that's written for like the UK. Each country's got their own way of doing things, and the government sort of influence that, or will just starts influencing how people are supposed to live. And as soon as you start going, actually, I'm just going to start afresh and just have a guess of where I want to start and go off on a tangent of how I want to live, people just think, what is this guy on about? And you've got to take that, and you've got to take that on the chin, and also accept that you're going to get that all the time, that you're just a bit weird.
Yeah, I had a conversation actually about that earlier on today, about kind of other people's perceptions, society's perceptions. You mentioned earlier, you get a career, then marriage, then children, and when that isn't and doesn't work out like that, you do become, I call it, unique and individual. And kind of like that book, the Stubble Art of Not Giving a Fuck, where it talks about basically how not to give a fuck about anything. And kind of reading in between the lines, you have to kind of sort of develop that sort of mindset and headspace, I suppose. Like for people, when you said you were leaving the military and them saying to you that, why, kind of like almost like questioning you, did you feel that you had to explain it, or was it just because that they couldn't understand your individualism, if you like, if that's even a word, of the steps you were taking and the fresh start you were going to be having?
It's hard to tell if someone understood it. I think they get what I was intending to do, because I always just said, look, this is what I'm going to do. If it doesn't work out, I'll always see myself as self-employed for the rest of my life, even if I was in a job, because that's how I feel my life should be. That even if I'm in a career and I'm expecting to be in there for 10 years, if one day I just wanted to do something different, I would do it. So I genuinely just no matter what I would do, it would be self-employed. So yes, I'm a coach now. That didn't work out, or I couldn't make enough money, or I had to do something else. That didn't bother me. That was part of it. So I think we started to understand it when I worded it like that. Like, look, I'm
Mm-hmm.
leaving to be self-employed, and go off and do my own thing, really.
What was the goal then to be self-employed? Just when I've never heard it explained that way. That's really interesting. Like, is it because you could be your own boss? You could be in your own control of certain aspects. You could have your own hours. You create your own kind of career path with it. Like, what was it being self-employed that was the drive, I suppose?
I think it just epitomizes making life a challenge, and it's a challenge that you constantly waking up every day, and there could be something completely new. Whereas when you're in a job like the RAF, I was pretty much, although it can be different, you can go away and things, you're pretty much doing the same job over and over again. And although that I'm doing that, it's pretty similar now every day. That, like I said, something could happen, and I could have to wake up and move house or something like that. And I think that's what life is. Like I said, that's what life is for me. It's all about the challenges, and no matter what happens day to day, create those challenges, and that's what happens. And everything through life, you could literally sit back and do the bare minimum and get to the end, and it'd be really, really easy, straightforward life. But the more you do something, yes, the outcome could be bad. Like I went and got married, didn't work out, but I wouldn't change anything. But that's why I'm so calm about it, because it's created this moment, exactly the place I'm in. And I genuinely see it. I want to be the best ex-husband the world's seen. That's how I see it.
There's not a lot of people would say that, but
Exactly.
that
But
wow.
my ex-wife's the same. She's really good. I think it's a two-way thing when it's not in your control. It's obviously how the other person reacts, but that's how I just see something. Yeah, I think as long as I think like that, it just makes me happy, because that's just how I'm playing the game.
Playing the game, yeah, playing the game, seeing it as that individual, unique challenge. I'm reading within all that, like sort of gives me like goosebumps, because it's never been described like that, or you've explained it in such a different way, but yet you're still, your glass that you've got at the side of you still constantly half full. Like, it's just incredible, and a unique circumstance. And I kind of wrote down little things like, how is everything given you an experience that now allows you, now you've stepped out of the RAF, you've now got a coach's hat on, you've got that badge of honour that you're wearing and helping others, to help those uniformed forces, as I read that you describe it as, to be all-round athletes building relentless consistency. So how in all of that, and what we've shared in our conversation so far, helps you help others?
I think, first of all, the reason why I coach is mainly people in the military that I coach. Yes, it's open to uniformed forces, if that police and things. I think they're similar, but I've just got a connection to those people, and like I said, the community side of things, and I think immediately you've just got that connection, and you want them. You've been in their shoes, and you want them to succeed. And I think fitness is the best way to start making progress with whatever you want in your life. You can discover how to push your boundaries, how to eat a certain way, how to be disciplined in certain things. Your life changes. And that's why obviously Access, not just one singular like strength training. We want to make yourself an all-round athlete where you can do everything, because it fits what the military is meant to be. They're meant to be operationally ready for whatever's to come. And again, it just ties in with who I am, and that's why it shows that obviously there's people out there I would love to help, but I just feel like the connection with the military is what makes it so special at the moment. But like I said, in the future, I don't know what I'll be doing. I know I'll want to help people in the military, because I just know they were in a similar situation to what I was in, where they just know there's so many, they know they're capable of doing so much. They're such good people, and they can do tasks that they're so much more capable of doing something a bit more out there, but because of rank or because of something that they're in, they have to do like this minimum job rather than being let loose to be able to do a higher standard. of a role, really.
Is that when, because obviously I sound like a stalker when I have these conversations because I go and have a little look at social media and remembering things that we've shared and things when we've been in a room with all our other coaches with our own coaching group. The rock solid mindset and the physique to be ready for any challenge. For me, that just is your evidence mantra sort of value from everything that we've spoken about so far. Like how you're, so positive with your mindset of every day being a challenge, fitness being super important to be ready for anything. Would you agree with that? That's how you want to coach others, the way that you've learned through your own experiences?
Yeah, just see, it doesn't matter what. So when like I'll have a call with someone and they share their goals, it doesn't necessarily matter to me what that goal is. We've all got an idea of how we would want our goals, and we expect other people to have similar ones. But some people come to me and say, this is a specific thing that I want to work on, and that's, for me, that's absolutely fine, because we're setting a target for something that we want to show ourselves that we can achieve. So even if they weren't bothered about physique, it's not necessarily an issue. However, I still want them to create a discipline to be able to do something, and obviously there's phases to it, but ultimately I want them to be able to showcase to themselves, they set their mind to something, they can do it. Because once you do that, you can do that with anything. You can do that with your promotion, with a different job, with family, with your partner, anything. You're showing yourself, look, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do it. You just create that mindset that you can use for anything. It doesn't have to be fitness.
So I'm going to give you, kind of because I'm curious for myself here, I have a really busy day at work tomorrow. I have a gym session which is 80 to 90 minutes long, just under the type of time you stretch, warm up, cool down, all the rest of it. I know my day is going to be quite stressful in a stressful environment at work. I've got to get ready for a charity cycle I've got at the weekend. I'm already a bit tired from a week of training and everything like that, but I have this goal of, I want to become an everyday athlete. How can I challenge myself positively tomorrow? And what advice would you give me that then allows me to go to bed tomorrow night feeling as if I've achieved success and I've been positive, if you were coaching me?
I would say always, obviously, when your eyes open in the morning, it's that first thought that you might get that says, look, I'm so tired. This is what I've got today. This is going to be so hard. And as soon as that moment comes in, it's telling yourself, why are you actually doing it in the first place? If the reason's not big enough in the first place, it doesn't really matter. That's why you've got to be your own journey, your own goal that you set, because there's going to be reason, there's weight behind it. And as soon as that comes in, so for example, when I wake up in the morning, obviously I think about where I want to be, but I always think, because I want to inspire people, I want to lead from the front. Every single morning, if ever it was in doubt, I think about everybody else. This is who I'm doing it for. It's not necessarily just for me. I think as soon as you take yourself out of a singular focus on yourself, it's a game changer. Because again, I think the world's meant to be about people, about community, and showing people what they can do. So for them, when they're planning out their goals of what they need to do, there has to be more weight behind it every single time. That's, at the end of the day, that's why they're not doing something, because if they're sort of in their comfort zone and happy with what they're doing, they're not applying enough pressure and enough weight to make that change. And the hardest bit is digging into actually why say, for example, you wanted to run a certain time. Why do you actually want to run it? And it's probably funny with like Olympians, because they're so good, but what is it that's caused them to push to that? There's something at some point that's made them go, I want to be able to be the best person in the world. And then that's where they wake up every single day and go, I want to be the best in the world. And it's got enough weight behind it. They've told themselves it enough that they can just keep doing it consistently. And like I said, if you frame your life as a series of challenges, you can't really ever say no to what you've got to do, because that's what you've set yourself out to do. Today's the challenge. Am I going to let it win, or am I going to win?
So tomorrow I want to wake up knowing that I feel tired, knowing I can't really be bothered. But why am I doing this? I'm doing this because so for me as a funeral director, you know, I've training in the morning is because I can be as energized, as optimal, and the compassion and empathy Katie as a funeral director that my families need me to be, while helping them get through a difficult time or stressful circumstances in relation to how their loved one has passed away. And the charity cycle is a group of funeral directors from all around the country getting together to raise funds for a wonderful charity. And there's more than just me in that cycle. You know, there's all different ages, all different kind of health conditions, and all, you know, all of the rest of it. And I'm doing it for them. I'm doing it for an industry that gets overlooked quite a lot for the work that it does. And as you were explaining all that there, instantly, I feel better. I feel actually I can go into tomorrow not as, oh, Ben, I can't be bothered with tomorrow. Like, I can't, because I've just simply asking that question of why am I doing this? And I'm not explaining it as if I'm doing it selfishly. As you say, it's the bigger overall reasons of why.
That's it. It's not just about you. The world, same with the world. People are so focused on themselves, which we've all been through it. I've definitely been through it. But the moment when you realize it's not just you, the world's a bigger place. You can just, that's why probably you get a little bit of calmness from it as well, because the problems you think are problems aren't really problems.
No.
Your heart's still beating. You can still make a little bit of a change. But
yeah. Sorry, carry on, sorry.
When you're obviously saying your day there and why you're doing things, I know there's no requirement for me to be able to motivate you because of what you're saying to yourself then. I know you, just by you saying that, I could tell you're getting motivated yourself. And that's, people don't need someone to motivate them. They need to just give themselves a reason.
And how long did that take me? What, about 30 seconds to be able to reframe it, to give the reason why, and then get up out of my bed when the alarm goes off and do it. And I always, when I'm not having my best time or things like that, again, I keep bringing up the funeral industry, but you know, that's my reality every day. Is I deal with a lot of families that they're dealing with a loved one that no longer has the choice or can no longer ask themselves, why am I doing this? Because they've sadly passed away. So that's a good enough reason as any. And I suppose other people's reasons, you know, sometimes I'm doing things in the gym, exercises, and I'm doing it for our coaches, Christian and Ailey, because, or now Carly, our new coach, as you mentioned, I'm doing it for them because I'm not capable. And not that I'm not capable of doing it for myself, but I can't do it for myself because my choice would be that I'm not going to do it. I would take the easy way out when that pressure of them being my pressure point is my privilege to be able to do that. So it's, and I'm sure everyone will reframe it differently probably, but it does work. We're just kind of proving that it does work, and it doesn't take long. But it's like I could go and do the session just now purely just because we've shared this conversation, because we've talked through it. And so I've built up momentum and things like that, and I feel like tomorrow's going to be a success now because of that. But what is Ben like on a bad day? I feel as if I really want to know, what is Ben like on a really bad day? Like, how do you get through it?
I probably just keep myself to myself. I know that there's always that phrase that you could be having a bad day tomorrow and it'll last 24 hours and then you're back to yourself again. And I think everyone has the bad days. I have times when I'm down, and I notice now reasons why I'll be down. So I'll be expecting it. I just know it's just a moment. But it doesn't change the fact, again, that's about me, and the world's not just about me. So it doesn't really change anything. But I do have my bad days. I'll just keep myself to myself. Probably try and sleep as much as I can to get through it. And that's probably the most of the reason
to the next day
why I'm in a bad place, because I need some more sleep.
And I always say, oh, I just can't wait for this day. And it's probably wrong that we're sometimes thinking, oh, I wish this day was over. You know, we shouldn't wish away time. But, you know, when you want to get to the next day just so it can treat it as that new day. But I suppose you could still use that framework that we spoke about of why am I doing this? You know, why am I getting extra sleep? Because I need to help my body, my mind. I need to help my clients tomorrow be who they need to be. Or as a dad, you know, that's the non-selfish reasons as well. So it all connects and makes sense. And I suppose coming on to the fact that, you know, being in the military, you wore the uniform, coach's badge of honour, but your other badge of honour is dad. So what would you say is, you know, becoming a dad, becoming a girl dad? My dad always says to me, a girl dad is definitely different from a boy dad. You know, what is it like being a girl dad? And what lessons and advice and teachings do you want to teach your daughter as she grows into a wonderful woman?
I think again that was another reason for why I do what I do, because the best way of teaching is just to show, rather than telling them what they need to do. They just look at you as a role model. So I think that's enough that I could show who I am, how I see life, and I would love her to think the same way. But that's for me. Just keep doing so she can see that. What else was the question? Sorry, could you say that one again?
What's it like being a girl dad?
And then,
what's it like with fairies and
so being a
makeup?
girl dad, I don't know if it would be the same if it was I had a son as well, but I'm definitely wrapped around the finger.
That's a girl dad. I can definitely, yep.
But I think it's only parents that really know and actually understand when people say like tiredness and some of the challenges that come with parenting. A lot of people try and put comparisons to what they do in their life to being a parent, but it's completely different. Obviously, I've not been a parent and I've been a parent, and there's definitely two sides of the coin. Parent or not a parent. Mainly that you just got someone that constantly you've got that dependent. Whereas normally it's just you. Even if you've got a partner, you know they can sort of care for themselves. Well, most partners, but then when you've got a child in the mix, it changes everything. Emotions change. I remember having one of the first films I watched after my daughter was born, and I cried at the film. I can't remember what it was now, and I hadn't cried in probably I don't know 10 years, 15 years.
Wow.
But something just happens. I don't know how to explain. I don't know whether that's because it's a girl, whether it's a boy, who knows. But I know when you become a parent, I think something definitely changes, and your mind changes. And I don't know whether it was age that everything started happening for me in terms of the goals and things and how I look about what we were talking about earlier. But it could also be that I also became a dad during that period, and the way I look at life definitely changed in that moment. And when I mentioned about your problems not really being that big of a problem, I remember when we were in hospital, waiting for it to be born, and that was one of those moments when you just realize every single thing I'm worrying about in the world does not matter. This is a real thing. Your job, you're losing your job. It seems like such a big thing. It's not. Yeah, that child being born, that's a real thing. You could always get, and even if life's hard and there's challenges to get another job, still get it. You can earn money. So I think that's what it shows you as well. Is this is real life.
I think that's coming from your honesty and your rawness as a male as well. That's giving me goosebumps again, because obviously there's not a lot of males that'll probably say that still. So again, thank you for sharing it like that. What's the best thing about being a dad?
I think obviously seeing them grow and develop. It's like when, I mean, I'm not going to compare it to a client, but it's like seeing your client going from one thing to another, but with someone that you've created. I think no matter
She's
where
a part of you.
yeah, definitely that. But it's also, I don't think there's a love like it, because it's sort of no matter what she does or anything like that, that'll always be there. It's like a obviously immediate feeling, whereas every other love in your life's pretty much grown to be like that. Whereas this is like an instant thing, and I think that's what's the most special thing. And it could be the hardest thing in the world. Obviously, they live life a bit different on the edge or whatever they do, and they might have their own differences to how you think, and that's obviously fine as well. But you'll still always have that love that's just rooted from day one.
Oh, I love that. I think that's special. That's very special. And everything that we've spoken about, what would you say are your superpowers? I always finish with this. What do you feel are your superpowers?
I think my superpower, is that no matter what someone was to throw at me, I would at least attempt to overcome that challenge. And my mum didn't like me for saying it, but I said even if I was like going to prison or something like that, or I was just trying to think in my head, what's the
Oh,
worst
big, yeah,
case scenario, and I still want to think that I could deal with it. And if I couldn't, then I couldn't. But I think that's my superpower, is that I see life as a challenge. No matter what challenge comes at me, I'm going to do it with as much of a smile on my face as possible and grit my teeth.
yeah. I was definitely thinking positivity, so that works in pretty well.
But this now, and you're talking about calmness earlier, this has like that negative effect that I sometimes don't go into that really competitive mode that sometimes I want to get into. When I was younger, I was really competitive, and I think at the moment I'm too chill with things like that, and that's what we spoke with my coaches about and your coaches, is I need to be able to turn it on when I need to turn it on. And that's, again, it's just part of that challenge, is right, how do I reframe my mind when it's game mode to actually overcome it, rather than thinking, it doesn't really matter, because then it just creates another challenge. And that's that.
Yeah. So that's a different type of challenge, isn't it, really?
It's not as easy as I'm portraying it, just to say, life's just a challenge, and you just complete a series of challenges. That's absolutely easy, because then it becomes a challenge and you're being too calm.
That's like your bit of paper that you would write, the challenges, and then it's what you write on that bit of paper that allows you to almost achieve that. Yeah, and every day's a learning day with it, and with all of that, and obviously becoming competitive, Ben. What does, you faced a challenge. Again, I'm just curious now. You faced a challenge. You've become competitive, Ben. What does it feel like at the finish line of that, whatever that challenge may be?
Yeah, that's a tough one. It's probably where I need to work on with myself a lot, is what do I actually now see as the success? I find it very difficult to think, right, I'm where I wanted to be. I've achieved what I wanted. And it's definitely something I've got to work on. So I don't actually know the answer to that one, because it feels good and it feels great and it feels emotional. One that I would say is, so I remember my dad's watched me on quite a few of my Hyrox races, and I remember the first few. He said to me, he goes, "It's so painful to watch you on the sleds," and obviously that was what worked on massively, and smashed those sleds. And just seeing how happy you are, that was a success. He didn't care when I crossed the finish line. So just actually trying to figure out what makes it a success is definitely what I have to work on the most. And it's not just obviously with events and things. There's other elements that I need to go right in life. What shows me a success? So I feel like at the moment, for me, I know that it's a success because of the way I'm seeing life, and that's for me. I'm not saying that's me done. Cheers. I've packed my bags and I can go out of this life now.
Growing and evolving with it.
Yeah, definitely. That's difficult.
I think that's very raw, very insightful, actually. And there's more power in saying, you know what, actually, I don't know something right now. It's kind of like, people are afraid to ask questions. And it's the people that ask the questions that can be successful more or achieve more. So I think that's more insightful than you sitting here having this conversation with me, telling me something or sharing something that actually isn't meaningful to you, isn't actually in line with how successful you're trying to be, or you know, you're still trying to figure it out. And I probably could relate to that more, because I think sometimes we do try and kind of figure it out.
Mhm.
What piece of advice for anyone listening to this conversation, with everything that we've shared, could you give to that person that may help them, may build a bit of momentum, may just give them a bit of a smile? What one piece of advice could you give?
I think it's just look at your life and just genuinely think, is this how, was this story the one that you've written, or is it something that you feel like you've had to do certain things certain ways because it's how you've been told? And then think to yourself, this is what I did. And it was when I was imagining when I was retired, but it can be different. If money wasn't a thing, if you could literally wake up tomorrow and do whatever you wanted for each day, how would you want to live it? And a lot of people go, "Oh, just go on a holiday," but you're not going to go on holiday for the rest of your life. So how genuinely would you live day to day? How do you see that? Because that's what I did. I pictured it, and you can actually then start going, I can actually do a few of these things now. Before you know it, that ball's rolling. Yeah, you definitely, if you're in a situation where you're not happy, you definitely need to look at it. There's no point living the rest of your life just in an unhappy place. Look at it and go, right. So these are the bits that I haven't decided. I've just sort of gone with the flow. I don't know. You went to university because that's what you thought you did. Got a job because that's what degree you got. You're in it and you actually don't really enjoy it, but you're just gonna wait until you retire, and that's when you can chill out. It's not the way to do it. Yeah, you might be all right, but look at, even if you are in an all right position, just think, what would dream scenario be? And as soon as you know, when you've just identified a few things, you can actually then go, right, well, I can actually, right. So say I don't know, the body's always an easy one to look at. So say you wanted a physique that you were really, really focused on. So, right, when this happens, this is what I'm going to do. Rather than thinking when, just look at it, what you're wanting, and go, right, what can I actually, if I wake up tomorrow, what could I actually start doing that's in line with that? And it's the same with a job. Say you wanted a job that you thought was so far fetched, you don't have the degree or whatever the qualifications, I don't know what, an example. Could you then wake up tomorrow and start applying for it, researching? Of course you could. Before you know it, yeah, it might take 10 years, but you that's in 10 years, you get this dream job that you wanted, or dream lifestyle, instead of waiting until you're 70, where you might not even make it until you're 70. That's what I would say. Look at your life, assess it. Is this what you actually genuinely want? If not, change it.
There's a lot of us that could be doing that in a lot of different things, not just like work. So I think that's a great way to finish, a great piece of advice for us all to go away and have a think about and ask ourselves the question, why are we doing what we're doing? And before we finish, Ben, for anyone that, like me, wants to stalk you on social media, because that seems to be my common theme, where can someone find you, follow you, or if, say they had a question and they wanted to ask you, where could they find you?
Instagram's my main one, which is ben.optimum purpose coaching. It's a big one. I might shorten it, but that's what it is at the moment.
Excellent. Ben, thank you very much. I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation and everything that you've shared, so thank you.
I've loved speaking with you, and it's great to be on. Thank you for inviting me on.